Hello again. One of the things which anybody will soon notice if they start trying to track down the evidence for inherent differences in intelligence around the world or between different ethnic groups is that the same small handful of names crops up time and again. Charles Murray, Arthur Jensen, J. Philippe Rushton, Ed Dutton, and of course Richard Lynn. Lynn has always been something of a linking thread between all the other names which one comes across, because he was the editor of a journal called Mankind Quarterly, which published a lot of material on scientific racism. Although it is a peer-reviewed publication, Mankind Quarterly has something of a dubious reputation in mainstream circles, and it was for citing it in his references that Charles Murray's book, The Bell Curve, fell from favour and became supposedly discredited. I'm always interested when I look into some topic and find that wherever I look, I come up against the same name all the time. It does not in itself mean there is anything fishy, merely that it is unusual. If I start looking into, say, quantum theory or some aspect of economics, I'm going to come across all sorts of different names. I might see the same name in different contexts, but I'm going to come up against a lot of different names. Loads of people have written stuff about quantum theory, loads of stuff people have written stuff about every minor aspect of economics. It's not the case when it comes to ethnicity and IQ. When you start looking into the question, you will see those same small number of names every single time. Richard Lynn has been around for so long and had such a great interest in things such as eugenics and the possible link between IQ and race that perhaps it isn't all that surprising that his name should crop up so often. He was 93 when he died last month, so you might say that he had a good innings, I suppose. When The Bell Curve, of which many viewers will have heard, was published in 1994, the authors advanced the view that there were certain genuine differences between the intelligence of various ethnic groups. They suggested that welfare policies inadvertently encouraged people with lower IQs to have more babies than those who are more intelligent, and that this has had a deleterious effect upon Western nations such as Britain and the United States. In support of this idea, the authors leaned heavily on the work of Richard Lynn. It need hardly be said that Lynn's views were anathema to orthodox psychologists and anthropologists who regularly denounced him. It was he who came up with the so-called cold winters theory, that is to say that it was by struggling to cope with the terrible conditions in Europe during the Ice Age that weeded out those less able to cope and devised new ideas, and in the process made the people of Europe brighter than other ethnic groups. In 2005, he also published a paper called Sex Differences, in which he claimed that men are on average 5 IQ points higher than women, and that made him even less popular, if such a thing was possible. My problem with Lynn has always been that although his research looks convincing on the face of it, I simply lack the knowledge to be able properly to interpret the statistics which he presents. I do know that many statisticians have said that his figures are not sound, and I'm also aware that most psychologists disagreed with his claims. On the other hand, he was a professor of psychology at Ulster University for over 20 years, which I think means that he cannot have been completely devoid of knowledge about the subject. I certainly find Richard Lynn convincing when I read what he has to say, but the truth is I simply do not know enough about psychology to know whether he was a wicked fool or a neglected genius.